I decided to, well, cheat just a little bit for this demo, because normally I'm using for my drawings these kind of sketchbooks, but often I tend to get, well, the dimensions wrong, or for having enough space, I decided to do this one on a bigger format, but not too big, because otherwise I won't be able to, well, to finish in the amount of time. Just for a little introduction, what we see here is quite a touristy place of Bremen. It's called Böttcherstraße, one of the main sites to visit when you see the city center of Bremen. And it originates from, well, 1920, 1930, and it is kind of a typical thing also, as kind of like the Lübeck view we saw before, because this kind of brick architecture is very typical for northern Germany. It's called Backstein-Expressionismus, to translate it, brick expressionism. Also very famous in Hamburg, for example. I don't know if you know the Cheetah House from Fritz Höger and so on. And it is kind of a counter movement to the Bauhaus, which was at the same time, and they were using the brick as kind of a very, well, in its tectonic possibilities, doing ornaments and stuff, and really using it as kind of a decorative way to build. And yeah, this is the Böttcherstraße. As you can see, there are many people looking up, because there is this little bell, I don't know, this little bell triangle between two houses, and it's playing every hour or so, and people are going there and listening. That's the scene, what we are going to draw now. And now I try to explain a bit what I'm doing. I like, for a start, to, when I have this blank page of paper, I normally am kind of, well, nervous to start, which is why I like to break up everything with watercolor. Just giving it some shapes, giving the main idea of the place. And you will see I'm kind of self-taught. So what I'm doing now, maybe every watercolor teacher would be very nervous. Look at my dirty water, for example. But, well.
That's a bold move, starting with dirty water.
Yeah. I've just been using it for the drawing before, so now it's already dirty.
Really nice brick color.
Yeah, just needing this as, well, kind of a little bit constructing the page, but also taking away the fear of the blank page, which normally would come up very easily. Which is funny, though, because when I started drawing in my Erasmus semester in Paris, I was this kind of architect having one black pen and drawing buildings and so on. And well, watercolor came later, and now the black pen almost vanished from my drawings. And well, I exaggerate the colors.
Welcome to the club.
Yes.
Were you one of those, like, dressed in all black architecture students?
No, not completely. But it was so dark.
Yeah. I like how you're starting big and bold.
Yeah, this is why I chose this big paper, because otherwise it would have been too tiny, and I think I need the space today.
Yeah.
You're also going in with quite a saturated mid-tone.
Yes, yes.
It's exciting. The watercolor is doing some fun stuff.
Yeah, I did not really thought about that before, because this paper is much more expressive than my sketchbook, watercolor-wise, which normally takes a bit more away the color, but nevertheless, we will see what happens.
Yay. So, I like calling the paper expressive. It's a good take on it, because it is.
Oh, you're just going in with a felt tip pen there?
Maybe. As I told you. Well, I'm not very, when I'm sometimes asked which media I'm using and why, I often tell, well, I have got some felt tip pens and I have this watercolor pencils and I have these crayons. And often I choose the medium, well, in relation to which color I want to have. Sometimes also because of some translucency or opacity stuff, but mainly it's because of the color. And this, there might happen some weird things then. So what I try to do now is to get a bit more precisely the shapes and dimensions. Normally I would wait a little bit to, well, let everything dry, but nevertheless, just going to start there where we have already dry elements.
I think this is like some really great quality paper and pen as well that it lets you do this. Like, no, like
I'm
mean,
just
good.
forcing it.
Like I'm surprised because like I have also tried to like kind of push like wet watercolor around with a felted pen, not always with success.
No, but what I love about that is that it kind of changes its color and it takes a bit
Yeah.
with it. The watercolor here is red, here it's the original brown color, which kind of disappeared in other spaces. This is an effect I really love.
Yeah, it's kind of like bleeding into certain areas, or you're pushing the watercolor paint around. Sometimes it's a bit scratchy as well.
Yeah,
really fun and diverse, or a changing line.
Yes, yes.
There's of course the question, what pen is this?
It's a Pentel sign pen.
Yeah, I thought so.
No. Yeah, this is one I was using in architecture school, of course, only in black back then. But when I discovered that they also have them in other colors, I came back to it because I like the kind of, well, it has a sharp line. It's but nevertheless it's saturated, and I don't know. I think it's good for drawing. Not too wide, but also not too thin. I started with very thin lines, but got away from that now. So in this back area, there is this house which is a bit lighter, and also we are having the light coming through this axis a bit here, which is why I'm using a bit more of this rose color and will enhance the light later, I think. We'll see. So I'm not treating my material very well. They have to go through watercolor and everything, but well, materials are there for to use them, right?
Yeah. Materials are there to use and abuse, I would say.
Is there a photograph you're looking at?
Sorry?
Yeah, it's in the chat. There's a link in the chat.
Okay.
There's kind of a cool light effect in the street view. I just noticed.
Yes.
Like the sun blasting out on the right side.
Yeah.
Think you're gonna do something with that?
Might happen. I will see later. I thought about using some light yellow in the beginning, but well, I kind of forgot and now it's too late. Maybe I will get over it with some Neocolor crayon, but I will see what happens. I rarely really plan the drawings in the beginning. It's kind of a discovery. I start with something, or I start with, well, the main construction, I guess, of the image with main important parts I want to show, what interests me most. Also try to create a sense of spatiality. As I told you in the beginning, I like overlaying houses, overlaying elements, and this is where I start. And then it's kind of a discovery. And also at some parts, I'm a bit going away from the original view or the original image to look at what the drawing needs. Is there a need for density at some part, or a color sprinkle or something else? And well, then I might also add it and go away a bit from the real world.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you like determined in advance what materials you wanted to use for this, or if you're just kind of grabbing stuff that.
Yeah, completely like grabbing.
It's very intuitive.
So of course I have favorite materials. I like these Caran d'Ache water soluble pencils, which have nice intense colors, I think. Also the Neocolor are nice, Neocolor II, also the water soluble ones. I absolutely do not understand why our art supply store here in Bremen took them away from the assortment. Do not understand it, but well, I have to order them now online.
Oh, you should come.
Yeah, some I don't know, felt tip pens, acrylic markers, which I got influenced by Jenny for some years ago to use them. But well, it might depend on the scene. And lately I got also a bit away from starting with watercolor, which was kind of my main element to start a drawing, mainly because I had to travel lightly with, well, smaller baggages. And this was why I limited a bit my palette. And yeah, got a bit away from this watercolor approach, but as it is kind of still kind of my favorite things to start a drawing, I also used it today.
Yeah, I understand. Every time I have to pack a bag when I go for a trip, which is right now for me, I'm like, oh, it was so nice when I just used watercolor. The simpler times, simpler times.
Yeah.
Yeah, nowadays half my luggage is always art supplies. So
I plan to look at the clock when starting, but completely forgot it. Jenny, you will tell me if I'm doing completely bad or fine, right?
Yeah, I think you're good so far. I think you've been drawing for like, let me check, 12, 13 minutes, something like that.
Okay, I will hurry up a bit.
Yeah.
It's not bad for
I
me
think,
because
but like I actually think if I look at your drawing now, I think it's like a really fun combination of you understand the structure of the buildings, and you have like these detailed areas like here and there, and I already understand the scene. Of course, there's more to add. There's always more to add, but I think it's already kind of it's kind of functioning the way it is, or at this state as well. I don't know.
No, that's right. But we have to add some elements.
We have to add stuff.
Yeah, you have so much time. Even without the windows on it. Yeah, I love the graphite on top of the like textured wet into wet area. Just like the whole shape of that on the white paper is very pleasing. Quite pleasing. a little cool color to contrast your warm color.
You are completely right in interpreting what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I could not.
We see
Good
your
job.
master plan.
Mhm. Groundbreaking stuff.
I wish this would be existing. So now I'm going to add something. Most of the time I like to leave out because I like to draw portraits of people, but I do not like to add people in my urban sketching scenes. But I think in this case, because it is such a touristy place, we need this mass of people here standing there and looking up. Otherwise, the scene wouldn't be complete. But well, in general, I like to tell the story of the place just by using the buildings and giving them some character and, well, let them tell the story. But here, I think we need to add this mass.
If anyone has more questions for Valerie, you can put them in the chat and we will pass them along.
I think it's really fun how you have like a big variety of line strength because you've used a lot of different tools to draw your lines. Like you've had
Yeah, you're right.
the pencil, the colored pencil, and the felted pen, and the wet and wet, and now we have like this really darker. Is it dark blue or is it
Yeah,
black?
it's a dark blue.
Yeah.
I prefer this one because it nowadays before black because it gets more this idea of shadow, light shadow element, which is why I think it works good with this brick color.
Mm.
Those sign pens are really nice. I feel like on mine, the tips end up getting dulled fast. So I stopped buying them, but they are really nice.
I think it's so fun to like find a certain shape that reappears throughout the image, like this dark rectangular shape that is in the windows in different sizes, and it kind of
Yes.
like becomes a pattern that repeats in different dimensions and repetitions throughout the image. I think that's super fun.
I think this is also something I try to achieve in many drawings, to have recurrent elements, even though they might not always, too light, might not always exist in real life, but having them in the drawing ties everything together, I think, to have elements that, well, get back and your eye recognizes them from some other place.
Valerie, there's a question in the chat that I'm going to read to you. It's by Adam, who's asking, Valerie, your approach of applying bold washes first and then detail is striking and yet risky. Do you ever just start again from scratch if it goes wrong, or do you always just make the drawing work?
Most of the time, I try to make it work. And sometimes I think I'm also overdoing it. But I rarely start new. I think when it's already overdone, as it's kind of with this dark green in the moment, it helps to well, get to media which kind of deletes a bit of what's too much there. So maybe getting a bit, also not really working, but well, we'll get to that later. But using more opaque media, which kind of deletes elements I don't like. So if I would have got it completely wrong here with the shape, it might happen that I add a sky which blurs away the elements that did not turn out greatly. But most of the time I stick to the drawing and try to make it work.
I agree. I think that's also like the beauty of working with mixed media, is that you always have options. Like,
yes,
worst case scenario is you cover it all up. Not all, but like areas.
And sometimes those are the best drawings, when I'm sitting there completely frustrated and thinking nothing is working, and then 20 minutes later I'm looking back at it and saying, okay, this is one of my most favorite ones at the moment. It happens so often, I think.
Yeah, it's sometimes good to get so frustrated with something that you don't care anymore.
Yeah, right.
And then I mean, it's already messed up, so what can go wrong now? And then you should just like start dumping stuff on top of it, and then you're like more free in your approach, and sometimes it works out.
Completely, yeah.
So true. The ugly phase is real also.
The ugly phase is real, yeah.
You gotta push through it. But like Jenny said, not caring as much is always good if you can get yourself to that point. I think it's good advice for everything. It's like just letting go. If you can let go of the fear and like the burden of feeling like you have to do something really well, it's good. It ends up being better.
Yeah, drawing teaching us life lessons.
It does.
Yeah.
I think this is also something where my background in architecture helps, because thinking that every drawing has to work out fine would be well, it's kind of an illusion, because doing an architecture design requires redrawing, rethinking, retrying things over and over again. And I think it is kind of like that with drawing also. So trying out, getting to something new, and then, well, you will take away something from the process. And that's why it's always worth just going with the flow, and afterwards you will have learned something and take it with you to your next drawing.
So wise.
Just FYI, we are approaching the 25-minute mark.
Whew, okay.
Oh, but you can draw a bit longer if you like, of course.
Yeah.
But it's already looking great.
Yeah, I feel that still elements are missing, but I will have to step back in a few minutes and have a look to not overdo everything, and to well, keep the time limit at least for the moment.
And you're also doing something I think is super important, because you have so many windows in this scene, and you don't draw every window in the same way. Like every window is a bit different, and you really look like how the light situation is, if there's a reflection. And I think that makes what you said about like that the drawing should be the character, that the drawing or that the building should look alive.
Yeah.
And I think that really helps, that it's not too uniform, or not that like there is repetition there, but it's kind of lively, and everything, yeah, it changes a bit. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I don't know where I read this sentence, but it must have been a kind of urban sketching book where someone said, when you're drawing buildings, you're not the architect. You don't have to exactly count the windows and draw them in a precise way, but you have to, well, get the idea how the facade is working, what are main elements, what is happening at the facade. As you can see here, for example, I completely messed up because in the drawing, those are aligned in the real scene, and I messed it up, and they're not aligned. But well, nobody will know when not looking at the real situation.
Yeah,
just leave it that way. Yeah, also I think it helps to set kind of a focus for the drawing. I'm not a perfect one to explain or to give ideas how to set a focus, because often I'm overdoing my drawings, but nevertheless, deciding for something that you think is the most interesting part, and it doesn't have to be detailed in terms of really showing every little element, but maybe having color intensity or important contrasts at this part of the drawing leads a bit the eye, and then at the other places you can, well, add the idea of what is happening, but not really drawing everything in detail. It's at least it's how our eyes work, because they also focus on something in the center, or where we add our focus to. And the other parts go away a bit, and I think this is also important for the drawing. Well, trying out if this might work here.
Whoa, interesting color choice.
Yeah, I think in reality it is like that, but I'm not sure. But nevertheless,
good.
This is one of the elements where in the end the eye will be a little bit attracted to, and it is an important part in the real scene, which of course I only know because I know the real scene. When just looking at it at the street view, one would not necessarily know that.
The only real clue for me is that everyone's looking at something.
That's it.
Yeah. What are they looking at?
Okay, I have one question. Are you going to add that owl to the sign?
Yeah, I have to. I'm not sure about the owl, because when I try to add words, for example, writing or two concrete elements. Often I feel that it's kind of disturbs my drawings. I don't know why, because maybe I'm not that precise in my drawing, and when there's now this owl, it would be too explicit. But I will have to add the yellow color. I think this is something I have to do. So I think we need some light, as you asked in the beginning, Eleanor.
Yay! I want to see how you handle that.
Well, this is what's left of my little Neocolor light yellow.
A favorite.
Yes, I will start with this one here. This is one where you can, well, kind of overlay things without completely deleting it, and I like the effect of it. Also adding a bit here.
Ooh, yeah, that really brings the sky. Just that little bit makes the sky
yeah, right.
Live, active.
So, okay, I will now start to just densify and get to a point where I think it's fine. In the if it were a real drawing, me sitting there, I would, I think, need another hour or so to finish it. But it's good to hurry up a bit here.
We have another question for you in the chat. Elena says, "Hey Valerie, I'm in love with your sketching style. I'm curious, when did you first start drawing and what inspired you to begin your artistic journey? Did you enjoy it as a child?"
Yeah, absolutely, I did. There is this fun little story which I also used when I was applying for architecture school, that I don't know, when I was 4 or something like that, there was a little drawing competition in kindergarten to draw your dream house, and I won it, and I won a little completely annoying board game where you have to scream at a cat on roller skates going around on the board game. Well, completely nonsense. I won this one. And so already at the age of 4, I was destined to become an architect. And I always drew, but also painted, and just like that. And starting with urban sketching really came when I was in my Erasmus semester in Paris, where I also had to find out that I'm not that much of an extrovert person, I thought, and I really enjoyed going around the city all alone by myself and drawing the city. And this was where I got back to a more regular drawing routine, because I got lost a bit with it when being in architecture school, which, like many studies, is a very time-consuming study. And though you're producing creative things all the time, nevertheless, you don't really have time to do this in your private time. And this was, so my Erasmus semester really was helpful for that. And well, I continued drawing since then. Got lost painting a bit, which is sad, because I also enjoy painting. And curiously, no, what is the right word? Well, interestingly, when I'm painting, I'm much more addicted to paint people with acrylics or something like that. And architecture does not really play such an important role in my paintings. But yeah, that's mainly the journey, I think.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Yeah. We are roughly at 32 minutes now.
Great. I will slowly get to the finishing point.
Okay.
Are people surprised when you tell them you worked in architecture? I feel like I would guess based on your style.
Partly yes, partly no. I often get asked if I'm doing art for a living, and I'm always saying no, sadly, I do not. But when I tell them that I'm studying architecture, people always, say like, oh yeah, there it comes from, which is funny because, of course, we had these free drawing classes in architecture school, but nevertheless, drawing or learning to draw in architecture often is something different than doing these urban sketching drawings. Not completely different, but it's not that related. Though I learned some very important theoretical lessons on drawing in architecture school, mainly about perspective. For example, we had a drawing teacher who said it is important to learn perspective in the beginning, but then you have to forget everything about it because otherwise the drawings won't be alive, which I think is a very good lesson. You have to trust your eye more than your brain. But nevertheless, you have to understand how everything works, how the tectonics work, how the building is constructed in general. But the drawing does not have to show it.
Totally agree with all of that.
Yeah. We have one last question by Elena, and she's asking, do you usually draw on the spot or later from pictures?
No, mainly on the spot, which I don't know. It is also a way for me to understand the city. So if I'm doing an architectural design, when I have to understand how a place works, it is a very good method for me to go there, sit down, draw. It completely takes time. It makes everything slower, my thoughts getting slower, and this is why I love to draw on site. But of course, sometimes when I'm doing when I'm doing something else, I'm also drawing from photographs, but rarely I retouch a drawing I started outside later. This is just when I go through my sketchbook and see, I have to add something here, or here a line is missing, something contrasts not enough, then I might add it. But in general, I finished the drawings on site. So I think we are nearly ready now. Just adding some more details of this house because it looks a bit blank. Maybe that's it. I could go on, but I think I'm done for the moment.
Yeah.
I have to stop myself.
Great.
It looks awesome. Awesome.
It looks really nice. I think that was really, really great.
Thank you very much. I had much fun. I was really nervous before that. I told Eleanor and Jenny before, and I'm happy I lived through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need Valerie, you need to have a look at the comments because people are saying nice things to you.
Nice, I will. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And looking forward seeing if someone else drew the scene of my hometown and how you interpreted it.
I'm sure someone did.